Hi, this is Richard Bliss with Crowdfund Beat. We're here on the Berkeley campus with the Academic Crowdfunding Symposium. I'm joined here by Doug Ellenoff. Doug, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Richard. It's great to be out here in California.
I'm sure it is. We're enjoying ourselves. The weather's been great. Let's talk about crowdfunding. Recently, first of all, for the purposes of those who are viewing, tell us a little bit about your credentials when it comes to the crowdfunding space, because they are rather deep.
Sure. I'll make it up as I go along. We've been involved in the crowdfunding industry for about 2 years. We worked with the SEC and FINRA on the rulemaking proposals, and we've given our views as to how those rules should be fashioned. We have traveled across the country espousing the virtues and advocating on behalf of the industry in the face of a lot of conventional wisdom that isn't necessarily as big a fan of the program as I am. And we've worked with the industry and developed a very active client base during that same period of time of funding portals and technology solution providers to get their systems up and going in a way that we feel is compliant and will be viable from a commercial point of view given our history in the finance world.
So this is all kind of preparation and ramp up for the Jobs Act and the final, what's the term, legalization? Or
yeah, you can refer to it that way.
I mean, that's what we've been waiting for, right? We're approaching 2 years that we've been waiting for this. It's almost here. A few things have happened over the last few weeks. September 23rd. Tell our listeners and viewers what happened on September 23rd that kind of started to make some progress.
Well, I think your observation is correct. We've had a 2-year ramp up where entrepreneurs have built out technology solutions in order to accommodate what we believe will be Title III crowdfunding, which is the online sale of securities to unaccredited investors on behalf of entrepreneurs looking to raise money in a contained technology solution called a funding platform. And while we've waited and built those systems in a way that we thought would be very commercially savvy, the rules have taken longer than everybody expected, and during that interim period of time, there was another rule that the SEC was creating rules around called Title II, which is the potentially online sale of securities to accredited investors. And when I say potentially, if you are going to do a general solicitation, which is revolutionary in America after 80 years, where you couldn't publicly market a privately placed securities on behalf of an entrepreneur, now you can do it through a broker-dealer, you can do it through a funding platform, or you can do it yourself. And that all went live on September 23rd, and so many of the Title III technology solution providers are now going to transition their business model from Title III, which was only the sale of securities to unaccredited investors, now to accredited investors.
My neighbor called me up the other day because they got a telemarketer, and then the telemarketer asked him 2 questions. Is your name so-and-so? Now, realize this is a father of 4, rents his house, is the manager at a miniature golf place, okay?
So we're going to talk about the negative byproducts of the program.
He gets a phone call. Is this Mr. So-and-so? Yes, it is. Our records show that you're worth $1 million in assets outside the ownership of your home, and you make possibly more than $200,000 a year. He's like, what are you talking about, right? Hangs up the phone and mentions it to me, and I said, it was shortly right after September 23rd. What's going on here?
So that is uncomfortable, and what we've been saying to folks, just because September 23rd came and you are permitted to do things like that doesn't mean you ought to do things like that. You're going to get regulatory attention, because besides being unclassy, and I think we can both agree on that, I think it'll be proven to be ineffective.
So first of all, let's explain to the listeners or the viewers why they're doing this. What was the point of that phone call?
The purpose of the phone call, and it's actually not even technically something that you have to do, they're trying to screen individuals to determine whether or not they are accredited investors. And accredited investors is a term of art under the federal securities laws. It means you make more than $200,000 a year by and large, or you have a net worth of $1 million exclusive of your home. And if you meet that test, you are now entitled to invest in these generally solicited entrepreneurial activities. The rule doesn't require, though, that you screen people up front. The better approach, as obnoxious as it still would have been, is just to say, Richard, I've got an opportunity for you. You want to hear about it? And then only at the point in time that they were interested, then you hit them with, well, are you accredited? And what's really happening is the telemarketing I'm a little surprised by, because the benefit of general solicitation is to do it broad-based. Like, I could look into the camera now and say, I'm Doug Elinoff, I'm looking to raise money, who's in? And then once people come forward and say that they're interested, which I know there would be very few, then I'd have to ask them those questions to see whether or not they're really accredited. So I think it's wrong-minded on so many different levels. I'll just leave it at that.
But it is interesting that he had no idea, but because of the recent rule changes, I was very aware of what he was talking about. Last question here. You're here out in California at this symposium. What were you looking to find coming out here? You've been on the road a lot. I know you were just in Las Vegas at the recent crowdfunding conference there. What were you hoping to find here, and has it been worth the trip to come out?
Fair enough. I'm going to answer one thing about September 23rd. I think that for all your audience, they ought to be aware that September 23rd has come and gone. And it's, by and large, extremely positive. They have the chance to find out about opportunities to invest in largely people that they've known either in college or wherever. And now, for the first time, those same people can contact them, not through telemarketers, but through social media and otherwise. And if you really thought well enough of those people at those point in time that you met them, you may look at the opportunity and choose to invest. So that's what I really am encouraged by.
Valid point, valid point. So now let's talk about you coming out here.
The purpose of coming out here is this is an academic symposium of people who are statistically going to hopefully justify many of the beliefs and concepts that we've been pursuing over the last couple of years. Many of the issues surrounding crowdfunding, whether or not it's what the regulators have been concerned about, whether or not there's going to be statistical fraud, these academicians are going to now study the information coming off of these Title II and Title III platforms to determine whether or not some of those concerns are valid. Some of the assumptions in crowdfunding are that crowdfunding is going to be very local and community-oriented, that it's going to be very good for women entrepreneurs to raise money better than they've been able to do before, for minority groups. And I just came out of one discussion panel where the early results were actually quite favorable and supportive of the things that we know intuitively, and now these folks are going to track the information in a very detail-oriented way, and it's fascinating.
Doug, thank you very much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, Richard.
This is Richard Bliss. We've Crowdfund Beat. We've been here at Berkeley campus at the crowdfunding symposium. Doug, I got one last question. What one thing would you say to our audience that's watching?
Go crowdfunding.
Thanks, Doug. You've been watching. We appreciate you watching.